So one of the questions I was asked was, what are the challenges I have faced being Hellenic polytheist? So while Hellenic polytheism and Hellenism is spiritually fulfilling, it does present its challenges. And I had a person ask me, what challenges have I faced following the Hellenic religion? So let's do a video and talk about it today. I can think of 3, maybe 4 things that I would consider challenging, and we'll talk about that and how do you guys feel? So the first thing I can think of when I was trying to think of what would I consider have been challenges was the religious climate of where I live. And that's where anywhere you guys live, because let's face it, Hellenism is not the majority religion of no matter where you live on this planet. And in that, it presents challenges because you feel there can be shyness, anger, sadness, just for the fact of being the minority. Anger and sadness because you see holidays being celebrated at your job or school, wherever you are, or even TV nationally, whatever you want to say, and yours is not recognized. It can be sad. And luckily, at where I work, we are recognizing more religions than just one. Like it said happy this and that, recognizing other spiritual paths, which is very nice to see. But you can't help but sit there and think, wow, what would it be like to have my spirituality recognized publicly in businesses, on TV, and so forth. So it can get you, if you're not careful, angry, or it can make you a little sad, and that's okay. But being the religious or spiritual minority is a challenge in itself. Because people assume, seeing, sadly, what you look like, your appearance, the color of your skin, even what religion you follow. And it can be any color of skin. You see a darker skinned person, you can think this of them. You see someone that looks like me, and especially where I live, and assume I'm doing this with my spirituality. And it can be a challenge in itself and awkward. Now, another challenge that can be an issue is with your friends and family. If you decide to come out and talk about your spirituality, that you're not following the spiritual practice that they thought by looking at you or knowing you through the years, that's a challenge. To have them see that what we follow isn't evil or lead to demonic possessions, or isn't hollow and empty, or more than likely idiotic and dumb, because it's the Greek gods. It's what we see on TV and cartoons of. Don't you know their stories? I'm not going to go down that path on that. I've talked about that before, but as a challenge, that can be and is very challenging for all of us that have come out and have friends, especially family, know your spiritual practice and your path. And if you want to live happier, it's more freedom to be open. Now, that's not an option for some people, but I was never one to be contained with pretty much anything. So I was able, and I came out to my family and friends. Well, not really my friends. With my friends, if they brought it up, I would tell them. I didn't say, hey guys, I got to sit down with you for a minute. But with family, one way or the other, it came out because, as you see, I don't like to hide anything. So when you leave stuff open like this, it leads to questions and discussions, hopefully. And luckily, it leads to acceptance in the good way if we are lucky enough to have a family and friends that accept us. And on the friend department, I have had some very good friends that they have known about my spirituality, and they still care and love me, and they haven't rejected me. And those that have were not my friends in the first place, and that's the way it is. And sometimes family is who you choose. So if your biological family rejects you, but you have friends that accept you, they are your family, if they care and love you enough to accept you. So it's just something to think about. And that is a hard challenge of being a Hellenic polytheist, a polytheist, a quote-unquote, to some, pagan. Anything in the minority is always a challenging to live and prove that it's not as negative as you've been told. So the next challenge I could think of was being alone, literally and physically, whether that in your family or in your town or local area, you're the only one that practices Hellenic polytheism. It can be lonely if you want a group to do prayers with, like you see on YouTube. You see over in Greece, they have Labries and they have other Hellenismos groups that practice at least with another person. And it can be a little sad to see, and you don't have anyone. On the flip side, some people like being by themselves, but it's going to lead to my next point that I'm going to bring up. But the good news is that we have the online community now. We have Facebook. We have YouTube that you guys see me on. And the little world of it's just me doesn't feel like it's just me, because we have a whole online community, and it actually feels like it's getting bigger, and we feel like we're part of something when we know that we're not alone in our spiritual beliefs. And the hardest challenge is being alone and studying alone. If there's a challenge for the spiritual path, it is learning how to practice it. Once you find Hellenic polytheism, it is actual putting it into practice. And how do they do it? What do I do? That can be hard by yourself. But again, we live in the 21st century, and the internet is our friend. So you go to forums and Facebook. Tip for you guys, if this is somehow your first video you see on Hellenic polytheism, this is how I did it. I went to Facebook because I was not Hellenic, but I was in the pagan community beforehand. So I knew from that experience that to go on Facebook, go online, type in Hellenic polytheism, Greek. I don't even like using the word pagan anymore, but Greek pagan, whatever you want to look up. And you'll find social media. I'm old school. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to the internet. So Facebook is my go-to. But now you got Discord that I don't even know how it works, because I'm that old, guys. And then all these groups that I haven't even heard of or dipped a toe in. Like, I don't want to say it because I'll probably say it wrong, but you know what I mean. If whatever your favorite social media group is, go there and you'll find groups on Hellenic polytheism or Hellenic groups. And then you start asking questions. Check their Facebook pages and see if those questions were already answered. And if not, if you don't see it, then you can ask a question. Because I asked, how do I give offerings to Hera? Ironically, she's behind me. And someone suggested milk. So I used to ask questions all the time, but you ask questions and then you ask, what books do you recommend I read? And I do have a video on my recommended books. But you ask what books to read, and then you practice. So you can read, but it's not going to be anything until you practice and checking out all your sources. And then you follow what is best for you. I don't want to say you want to be strictly traditional. You don't necessarily have to be following everything to a T, but you can start off there, and then you can kind of keep the traditions. but kind of slowly turn it into yours. Now, my roots in Hellenic Polytheism are from the traditional things I've read. And I still honor Hestia first, for example, and last. I like to do kurnips, or at least shower before I pray, and so forth. So there are traditional roots that I still follow that you don't see, because I don't add everything to every altar and ritual video, because it kind of becomes redundant and repetitive to see me pray to Hestia before I pray to Artemis, for example. Or do that when I did that Hermes statue, or the Hermes ritual outside with the stones. I did a prayer to Hestia before that. So I do it even though you guys don't always see it. And sometimes I do prayers and rituals that I don't record and see, and that you see. But yeah, so back to the topic. It can be hard being alone to know even how to begin. But YouTube and social media and video channels like YouTube are very helpful. Watch how they do it over in Greece. And some channels they speak Greek, but they have either English translations or what am I looking for? Their second language is very broken, but it's in English or whatever language you prefer. Sometimes you can find that. But I would watch those videos. I would watch YouTube videos. That's what actually got me wanting to do a YouTube channel, because of how helpful YouTube is still to me. I love watching those prayers and rituals over there in Greece. Anyway, guys, someone asked again, what is hard about being a Hellenic polytheist and what makes it a little complicated? I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you can leave comments, tell me about any more that I have not mentioned. What's made it a little difficult for you? If anything, hopefully not, and hopefully it's better now than it was. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.